Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to episode 4 of the Straight Outta Prison podcast. I'm James K. Jones, and this is my story.
And I'm Haley Jones, and this is his story that has become a part of my story.
So in the first 2 episodes, we talked about the lead up to getting arrested and then the day I got arrested. And then in the last episode, we talked about like my first week or couple days, having to face my family, having to, face my first court appearance, going in and the judge looking down at me and telling me that I was going to spend a minimum of 25 years in prison.
Minimum mandatory, isn't that what?
Yeah, that means there's no negotiations there. You're in a mess.
So we ended with saying that we're going to talk about just moving forward what jail life looked like for you. And there are so many things that I know we've talked about just in the past that have just surprised me, and also things that I just wouldn't think of never having been to jail.
Well, jail and prison are two different places. I know I keep saying that to you, but jail it's hard time. It's rough. It's hard to navigate through. When you go to prison, we'll get to that when we get there. Prison is like a subculture. It's a whole world, things going on. I mean, you have a little city inside of prison walls and bars. But jail is something not that. It's hard time. You locked up, and you just need to sit and think about it.
So it's hard time, but you did mention previously that you and your cousin really were able to establish relationships with the people in the jail, meaning the people working, and had good rapport. And the sheriff,
I spent 6 months in the Jefferson County Jail in Florida, and it was a small town. It was everybody knew everybody. The deputy that we shot at, the jailers, or we call them jailers, or correctional officers, whatever you want to call them, he was a friend of theirs, so they knew each other like close. They were like a close knit little community.
You would think that would have not been good because they thought you tried to kill them. So why would they favor you?
I don't know. I think they genuinely felt sorry for us, and we were in a world of mess. And then add into that, our whole family came down that next day, and then, I think visitation was like twice a week. There was somebody there for us every time, and they got to know us. It was it wasn't one of these big jails where they kind of lock you up and throw away the key. Like they were the ones that actually had to take care of you, because there was only they averaged about 10 people in their jail, because again, it was a small town.
So you had said that you got to spend a few hours with your family that day after, or within the next 3 days. So were you able to continue being able to have visits where you could sit and talk with your family?
Well, visitation was, they had visitation twice a week. Like any institution has like scheduled stuff, but they can do special stuff if they want to. What we didn't know was that first couple of weeks was they were actually giving us special privileges by letting us come out of our cell and go into the front of the sheriff's office and sit in a room and actually sit with our family and hug them and, cry with them and do all that stuff. That lasted for about 2 weeks. I think they felt bad because, a trip there, I think it was like 4.5 hour trip one way. So they felt for them having to drive all that way to see us. But after about, I believe it was the second or third week, the sheriff's, I think it was a deputy, he explained to me, like, this is not normal, and we can't keep doing this because it's, the other inmates are going to get upset. So how they did visitation was you walked to the end of the little unit that you were in, and there was like a little like stone wall with 3 little windows in it with these little microphone boxes under it. The glass was probably like an 8x10. Yeah, about an 8x10, not much bigger than that. And it was like a double pane glass, and it was dirty, and you couldn't see through it. And I just remember the first time I ever put my face up to that thing, just the smell of it, because you had like all those people that would go up there and put their breath and their spit in that little spot. It was horrible. But it was an older jail. You know, when I got to Bay County, it was the same, but you had like a life-size glass in front of you and you talked through a phone. It wasn't quite as bad. But that one there, it was just like, you know, and then my mama crying through that glass. I was just like, is it worth it even to drive down here? I mean, is this even worth doing? But they never missed a visit, neither one of them.
In retrospect, are you glad they came? Do you think it made a difference for you in your emotional, mental state that they came?
I mean, it helped. I felt supported and loved, but at the same time, you know how I am. I feel guilty, like if I'm making somebody work or I'm making somebody do something. I'm a 1 on the Enneagram. Like, I want to do the right thing. And I just felt like I was adding all this extra burden to them on top of the burden of just being locked up, and it just bothered me. I didn't like it. But I like seeing them, don't get me wrong. But I think one of the most painful visits I ever had was 2 or 3 months in, and my mom was there. And I don't know why I told her this, but it was what I was experiencing at the time. I was hungry. I was starving because that place, they didn't feed you good. Like you had like eggs and something for breakfast, and then you usually had like a bologna sandwich for lunch. And then for dinner, like at least 4 nights a week, they fed you egg salad sandwiches. And, you know, so you love egg salad, and sometimes you make that, and you try to get me. I can't eat. To this day, I cannot eat egg salad because it sounds like a silly complaint, but it was just like, it was very. It's hard to be hungry, especially for something. You know, I'm a chef. I like
hard
to
for
eat.
me to be hungry.
But I was looking through the thing, and I told her that I was hungry, and she was just like, what do you mean? And then I was like, well, no, not really. We're going to have chili for dinner. We'll be fine. You know, I tried to play it off, but I just remember seeing what that did to her because I was hungry and I was her child and she couldn't do anything about it. Why did I tell her that? But it was because we were talking and I was hungry. I was starving. And then later on, like when I got to the Bay County jail, they had like commissary and store and stuff like that. But in that first one that I was at, they didn't. Sometimes they would go to the store for you if you had money on your books. But that was like once a month, like a treat kind of deal. Those were very few and far between. And like they can't bring you food.
Right.
Even there, they didn't. None of that.
Okay, so you had egg salad. We know that. Chili. I don't know if you were lying to her about having chili. What other kind of foods did you have? And did they just bring you 3 square meals a day or?
Well, they fed you three times a day. Breakfast was like at early in the morning. And I always get bothered with people. You know, people from Alabama always say Alabama's redneck. I'm like, you need to go to North Florida and find out because there was a lot of rednecks there. So they had a thing in.
You mean in jail or in general?
I don't know. I was never out, but I mean, there was a lot of them in the jail. They were more redneck than anybody I knew. But they had a thing called trustees there. They didn't have serious like crimes, and so they lived in the trustee cell, which they left open all the time. And they were the ones that really walked around and like brought you stuff and, you know, stuff like that. So there was a trustee, at least the first 3 or 4 months I was there, every morning he would come by with juice and he would take a cup and rattle it on the bars and it would be like, brrr, brrr, brrr. And he said the same thing every morning over and over. Y'all boys want some of this juice? Y'all boys want some of this juice? And if you didn't get up and get your juice when he walked by, there was no juice. So everything.
So what time was that in the morning?
Like 6 maybe. And then they did lunch around like 10:45, 11. I remember lunch was when Price is Right was on.
So where did the food come from? Did they cook it? Was there a kitchen in the jail? Or?
Yeah, they had a little kitchen. And they had a lady that would come in and cook, but she only came in like 3 days a week. And then the days that she didn't come in, the trustees had to cook, and those were usually egg salad days. So it was,
that's where the egg salad originated.
There was a lot of egg salad in Monticello, Florida.
Well, speaking of food and then what happens to food, the bathroom situation in jail, what did that look like?
All right. So, most people should never have to answer this question. But when you get locked up, you not only lose your freedom, you lose your privacy. So in each one of the little cells, there were 3 toilets with a sink on the back of it, and they're like these nightmarish silver commodes with no seat on them. And I didn't have a problem turning around and taking a leak in one of those, but to
Or using the restroom.
yeah, but no, I mean. I'll be urinating. I don't have a problem urinating.
You can say using the restroom. I think that's...
Well, but the other restroom that you use when you have to sit down and take a poop, that I never got over that.
Wait, so it's 2 different bathrooms for that?
No, but okay, so I'm a man.
Thank you for clarifying.
we don't have to sit down to pee. Like you can kind of privacy yourself when you have to pee, but there's no getting around when you have to poop. Like you have to sit down and you have to do it. So this is what happens. There are 8 other people in the cell that are watching you do that, and then the officers, when they walk by, if you're doing that, they see you doing that. The trustees.
So the toilet is inside of the cell.
There's no privacy. Okay. You have no privacy.
Wow.
Zero privacy. And I tried to come up with a solution, like maybe I could hang like a blanket up and use the bathroom, and but that was against the law. They'll let you know. You can't do that. What happened to me was I think it was the first 6 days that I was there, I just didn't use the bathroom, and then finally I had to, but I never got over that. I mean, never got over that. And, I'm still funny about that. Like, I don't like you to come in our bathroom when I'm using the bathroom.
Well, naturally. I feel like that's a very normal thing to not want people.
Well, it's that. It's using the bathroom, and then it's also taking a shower.
Yeah, so what was the shower situation? And was it a room, or was it inside of the
your
cell?
cell? Yeah.
Oh, you take the shower inside the cell, too.
Everything's right there. You don't go anywhere. Wow. You're in like 400 square feet, unless you have to go to court, or unless they did yard time, which they did maybe once or twice a week, where they'd let you go out with the other inmates and they'd watch you with their guns. Mm-hmm. But you lose everything. You lose your privacy. You lose your... And that's just...
dignity. You used the word before, dignity. And I think that is something I just can't even imagine. So was there a difference between the Jefferson County, which is where you started, and the other jail that you went to later that you mentioned? Or was it about the same?
Oh, no. The first jail that I was in was a small county jail. But when I got transferred to the Bay County jail, it was a private jail. So that means... I guess you don't know what that means, but there are jails and prisons ran by the state and counties and cities. And then there are a number of, at least in Florida and in Tennessee and Georgia, I don't think we have any of those in Alabama, but Lord knows we need them. It's called Correctional Corporation of America, and they actually come in and they run the jails, they staff, they do everything. So the one in Bay County was a private jail, it was a CCA, but it was also... mammoth in size. It was 6 stories. I mean, Bay County. Bay County's a pretty big county, and it's Panama City, and then all the other cities that are in that county. So there was you get those tourist towns like that. There's a lot more crime, I guess. Mm-hmm. And almost nobody in the Bay County jail was from Bay County. They were generally from somewhere else. Like there was a joke in there: you come on vacation, leave on probation.
What does that mean? Because you're there on vacation. Oh, because Bay County was where Panama City was?
Yeah, so there was a lot of people that got jammed up. And usually it was something drug-related. I was in there with the guy. He was in there for murder because somebody dosed his wife at a bar, and she woke up in his bed, and he went to confront him, and he was bigger than him, and he looked to grab something, and there was a hammer there, and he hit him on the head with it and killed him. You run into all those different, characters. I remember when we were in the Jefferson County Jail, there was a guy in there that he was crazy. I was scared of him. He was crazy. He was a big, huge guy, But he actually had shot his dad and killed him and put him in the back of his truck and drove around with him for 4 days trying to figure out what to do.
His dad?
Yeah, before he got caught. And then he came in after us, but then they put him in the cell with us. And I can't remember his name, but I just remember thinking, I don't want to sleep. I don't want to sleep. If he'll kill his daddy, what will he do to me?
So you were scared.
I was very scared of him. Eventually, he had a few outbursts, and they had to put him in solitary, like by himself, because he was not safe. But it was easier to be in jail in Bay County because it was like they called them pods. So there was like 12 cells. You had a big day room. You had 7 or 8 tables, 4 or 5 payphones, a couple TVs, a big bathroom, like military style where you had to take a shower with other people. But it was different because there was like stuff going on. You'd have like 30, 40 people in there with you. And, there was always like a card game or Monopoly or, something happening with that. But then, and it wasn't like bars. It was like you were behind a steel door, and then there was all these rooms inside of your pod, and like your room, the door would just close. They left it open most of the day, but they would close it at night, or if there was any kind of problem where they had to do a lockdown. When I started off, I was in a cell by myself, which was better than being in a cell with somebody else because that was always rough. But it was because of my crimes. When I got to the Bay County jail, I had been, charged with attempted murder of a law enforcement officer, battery on a law enforcement officer. Then I had a armed robbery charge and a kidnapping charge and a Fed charge. So I was on the top floor with, the worst of the worst. You couldn't go no further than the unit that I was in. But it was because of my charges. Those were considered violent crimes.
So that was in the beginning?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious, was there any milestones that you hit while you were in jail? Like what, I don't know, I'm thinking maybe birthdays or holidays.
I had a lot of those.
The first one. Let's talk about the first one and how that felt to be.
I think the first thing that really just, on top of being locked up that really bothered me was right after, it was the first month or two, I don't know if you remember this, the blizzard of 1993.
I was only 13, and where was that?
All over the South. It was here, it was there, it was everywhere. It would have been in your area.
I don't remember details.
No, this was a blizzard where it, like the snow just like wiped out everything. It wasn't like we got some snow. It was kind of similar to the snowpocalypse we had in 2014.
Yeah.
I know it covered Alabama and North Florida because we got it down there. But I just remember, where I grew up in Phoenix City, Alabama, we never got snow. Like I can count on one hand the times we had snow. And when we did have snow, it was a big deal. Like we got snow.
Yeah, it was the same for me. I grew up in Pensacola, and it was similar that, I remember it snowing at some point, but clearly it wasn't an emergency for my family. I remember.
If you were at home safe in your house, it didn't. I don't think it shut out power.
So that happened when you were in jail.
That was the first thing I can remember that happened, and where I just knew I missed that. I'm missing this, and for some reason, my mom thought it would be a good thing to take pictures of everything and then have them developed and send them to me.
Back in the day when you developed pictures.
But when I got those pictures, I remember just being so depressed. Like why couldn't it snow before? I was like, I don't know. That sounds silly.
It felt like something that you missed.
I did miss.
It was exciting, yeah.
That was the weirdest thing for me was that I'm not there anymore. That's why I say it was like a death. So I'm not there anymore, but life goes on. Time don't stop, life don't stop, people, everything. Life just continued to go on without me. And that was it was hard. It was weird so many things happened in that year that I had been looking forward to for so long.
Like what?
My 21st birthday.
Oh, that's big.
And then the same year that I turned 21, my mom would turn 40.
Oh, wow.
Only like a month and a half apart. So she had always had these big plans for my 21st birthday, and then I had these big plans for her 40th birthday. Well, my 21st birthday, I turned 21 on July 3rd, 1993, so I'd have been like 6 months in, maybe 5. Anyways, January to July. And I remember just waking up devastated by that. And then it was a visiting day. My mom came, and she brought me a cookie cake. And they let me have a contact visit because it was my birthday that day. I remember that. But they told her he can't have the cake.
Oh, that is so horrible.
And she was so...
Cookie cake is my favorite, so that would be torture,
It was torture. And it was like it was there and I could smell it almost.
Oh,
I
gosh.
saw it. But, I mean, they have rules, and they would bend the rules for us a lot of times, but, like, it was more for you can't let me have a cookie cake if you're going to let everybody else have a cookie cake.
Right.
Like, that's just, that stuff like that would cause a riot. Mm-hmm. So I just remember that was very painful, and I remember when my mom turned 40 in August of 1993, just how depressed I was over that, how depressed she was over that, and just like, I'm thinking, well, I ruined her life. And I don't want to ruin my life. I ruined her life too, And I'm not saying I did, but that was how I felt. I felt like this just keeps getting bad.
It's so hard to imagine because I just turned 40 in May. And, well, first of all, to have a child that's 21 right now.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people my age do, but much less for one to be in jail. That would be hard.
Yeah.
I think. As a mom,
I don't even want to think like that about my kids.
Did you ever talk to her about what she did for her birthday or...
Yeah, I talked to my mom.
What you missed,
I talked to my mom every day.
Okay.
We talked on the phone every day. And I saw her twice a week. And then when I moved to Bay County, they would only let you have one visit a week. And so I'd see her once a week.
So she drove, how far did she drive once a week?
It was 4.5 hours to Monticello from where they lived. And it was a little less, I think, when I was in Panama City. I think it was just like 3 hours.
Wow, so every week she drove that?
Every week. Her sisters would tag along with her, my aunt Patsy and my cousins, and and then like when my granny would come to see me, she lived in Atlanta, and it was like a 10-hour drive, I think. Mm-hmm. She did that quite a bit.
Real quick, speaking of visiting, I know you said when all this went down a couple episodes ago that you did have a girlfriend. So did that continue? Obviously, it's not still happening currently.
No.
But, how did that all work out?
Well, I had a girl that I was dating. She was a little bit younger than I was. And she was in love with me. She was one. And
of course.
No, but here, I'm just being honest. I was a criminal. I didn't care about nobody. I didn't want, I was just using her for sex before I got arrested. But then it's so funny, after I was arrested, then all of a sudden I want to be in love and get married and,
right.
and start writing these romantic letters. And I think that lasted about a year. She would come with my mom to see me. She wrote me a letter almost every day. I wrote her a letter. She was young, and she was in love with James K. Jones. And I just had like an awakening. I got mad about something I heard or something somebody told me.
About her?
About her.
Okay.
When you're in those kind of unhealthy relationships, somebody's controlling the other person. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And how you going to control somebody when you're in jail? But I remember it was about a year. It was before I went to prison. Just like having a moment where I realized you need to let that girl go and live her life. Like, what are you doing? Like, you didn't even really like her. And now all of a sudden you're in love and you want to talk about getting married and all this nonsense. And I just told her I'm sorry for what I did to you. Don't mean to string you along, but I don't see how I'm going to prison. I don't see how this could work out long term.
What was her name?
Jamie.
Sweet
girl. No, there's a redemptive side to that. I made connection with her when I got out of prison. She's married and got 2 kids, and I asked her to forgive me for everything. I asked her mom. Well, her mom freaked out when I got out, when I called her house. Like, oh, she's married. She's happily married now. Listen to her. I don't think you need to contact her. And I was like, yes, ma'am, whatever. I just wanted to, I was going to be in town. I didn't want a relationship by that time.
Yeah.
I absolutely did not want a relationship with her, but I wanted like some closure, some forgiveness. And I think we're Facebook friends now. I mean,
I see. I didn't even know that. I'm learning something new every day.
well, babe, this is 27 years ago. I mean, this is old news.
No, this is why I think it's so fun doing this, telling this story like on this platform, because I have
You're learning
just
stuff?
discovered that like as we talk, like I guess because you're thinking about it and putting yourself back there,
back
that
in.
new
Yeah,
details come out that you didn't even think about.
Well, this has been different. I've been asked to come tell my story. I've been interviewed, all stuff, and it's always like bits and pieces.
Right.
I have never sat down and just tried to go through chronologically. Is that the word? Like,
yes.
What we're doing right now.
Mm-hmm.
So it's weird, the stuff that it stirs up in you. It really is.
Yeah. So tell me about, did you spend any, because I know I can't remember if you said 6 months or whatever, but did you spend any holidays when you were in that first jail?
Yes.
Besides your birthday?
So it was the blizzard, then it was my first birthday. And it's funny, after the first year, everything got easier. Like, you learn how to deal. I'm not there. I love y'all. I'll make Christmas cards and send everybody cards. But that first year, it was devastating because, there was the blizzard, then there was my birthday, then there was 4th of July right after that. That was a big family holiday for us. My mom's birthday, her 4th birthday, then Thanksgiving came. Thanksgiving was rough. Thankfully, though, I was in Panama City, the Bay County jail by then, and they fed you better there. Like, it was...
Did you get a Thanksgiving meal, per se?
Yeah, I mean, they did the turkey and dressing and, the, green bean casserole and pumpkin pie.
That's nice.
I didn't eat pumpkin pie. That was a little bit better.
And were you able to have visitors on that day, or did they come to see you?
No. Well, there's visitation, but then, like, you can't expect the officers to be the ones to stay there and navigate that. So on holidays... that didn't count. So, no, I didn't have any visits on Thanksgiving. And then I think the thing I remember the most about that was Bay County Jail was freezing. They had air in the summer, which made it a little bit better. But in the winter, it was like they left the air on or something. So there's not really any heat. And I was on the top floor, and it was freezing. And I had to get my mom to send me, like, long johns and extra socks and like thermal shirts, so you dressed in like 4 layers just to stay warm. And I mean, I learned how to make a little fire in my cell.
Oh, wow.
And
with what?
With toilet paper. Like, you made a toilet paper thing, and I'd have to show you. I couldn't really say it. I mean, jailhouse ingenuity. Mm-hmm. But that Thanksgiving was freezing, and that was what I remember the most. But then Christmas was another story. Christmas was different for me. Christmas was, that first Christmas was, it was rough, it was brutal. And you'd have to, I guess, for me, you'd have to go back to, like, what our Christmases look like. Because my Christmas was always, I spent Christmas Eve with my dad's side of the family. And that was everybody's Christmas on that side of the family. It was because my grandmother was respectful of, like, her kids that were married that had in-laws, and then, like, they want to do their own thing at home. So all my life, Christmas Eve that was what we did. You went to Granny's on Christmas Eve. Everybody came. Nobody ever missed. And, that was the time you wouldn't see them all through the year, especially me after we moved to Alabama, because I didn't see people that much. And it was just always a magical time. It was Christmas Eve, and, that was in the days before we didn't draw names. Everybody got everybody a gift, and Granny would be in the kitchen for 3 days. The big, she was always the Southern Belle. She was going to hook us up with the food, and it was the highlight of my year.
It was the scene from the movies, from the Christmas movies.
Maybe,
basically.
yeah. But then, no, that was just Christmas Eve. Then I would always go home on Christmas Eve, spend the night, wake up with my mom or whoever she was married to. And then we would go to my Meemaw's house, and that would be that side of the family. We would have Christmas on Christmas Day with them, and there would be none of that first year. I was dreading it, and then when I called my granny early on Christmas Eve, and realized, nothing changed with her.
Everybody was there except you.
The only difference was I wasn't there. And, they missed me and they talked to me on the phone, but I just, I remember going into my little cell and just crying my eyes out, getting under the covers. And I couldn't stop crying. It wasn't like I was feeling sorry for myself. It was a bit, I guess I was feeling sorry for myself, but I couldn't get over it. Like, I couldn't stop crying. Like, I couldn't, like the other guys were out there, playing spades or watching TV or, on the phone. I didn't even make any more calls after that. I couldn't stand it. I couldn't stand it. It was, I was very glad when it was over with. That first Christmas. It was.
Was that the first Christmas that you didn't do those traditions that you just talked about?
Yeah. I was only 20 when I was arrested.
That's
so
true.
I was still, I wasn't a child, but I was still, I was still doing everything that they did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So were you able to get presents?
No.
I don't know if your family could bring you presents.
No, none of that. They could send you a money order, and you could order some moon pies and coffee on the store.
So, wow. So no
and then
presents.
There are when you're in there. Like there are like prison ministries or jail ministries that are connected to that, where they'll bring you around in a little bag. But everybody gets the same little bag. It's like,
what's in a bag?
A candy cane, a toothpaste, a deodorant, and an apple or orange, and like one chocolate-covered cherry.
Just what I want for Christmas. Bring on the toothpaste.
No, but hopefully we'll be talking about this at some point. Like once I got to prison, like hygiene is a commodity, like especially for somebody like me.
Well, let's just say that James's hygiene situation is a lot better than mine. I don't feel like I'm dirty, but he says, I don't know, you're just very aware of it. And I have been told that I will appreciate that the older we get.
Well, no, we just have my philosophy is if the sun goes up and then the sun goes down again and you haven't washed out every crevice and, did all your things, then you're not right.
See, and I feel like, really, that the sun could go up and come down or whatever a couple of times before that needs to happen.
Hygiene is just important, and I don't think I ever realized how important it was until I was in a place where I didn't have the opportunity to get the things that you take for granted. Like you take for granted, like there's toothpaste in the bathroom that works, deodorant that works, stuff like that. What they give you when you go in is this, I forget what it's called, but it's like made by state prisoners. And it's toothpaste and it tastes minty, but when you brush your teeth with it, it doesn't, you can still taste your mouth. Does that make sense? Like it's just gross. And then they give.
I don't think I've ever experienced that, to be honest with you.
You probably wouldn't because you've never had to. Mm-hmm. But that was what they gave you. But you could like order it on the store, and then like once I got to prison, you could get a package a couple of times a year where they could put like like good toothpaste or good deodorant. Like the deodorant they gave you is like this little ball of whiteness. It was like
ball of whiteness.
It was like white death. It was like a little roller, like you rolled it on you. Mm-hmm. And then the razors. Oh my gosh, the razors. They were like I can't even explain it. There was like just one blade, and it's like you would basically know that if you're going to shave, you're going to cut your face up while you're shaving. Because there was no getting around it. And in jail, you didn't have to shave, but once you got to prison, you had to be like military all the time.
Really?
Oh yeah. If you didn't shave or have a certain haircut or your clothes like they were supposed to be, yeah. Well, we'll get into that later with prison. But the hygiene to me, and I think that's why it's so important to me now, is because they say that's how people turn into fundamentalists, is because they get something taken away from them.
That makes sense.
Like the Jewish people, before they were carried off captive into Babylon, they were just kind of like, yeah, we got this law stuff we got from Moses, we'll do it sometime, not. They came back from captivity, that's when they became hardcore Jews. And I guess I became a hygiene fundamentalist because, I'm all about my good hygiene.
Hygiene fundamentalist. So speaking of hygiene, and we've talked about a lot of the things that went on inside and what that looked like. Did you ever get to go outside?
They did a thing called rec. Like, when I was in Jefferson County, Florida, they would take you out in the yard, and they had, I know there were like picnic tables out there, and they always had weights everywhere, but I never really was that into that. I would try to get into the working out thing, but I never really, that wasn't my thing. It just felt good to get some fresh air. When I got to Bay County, their rec that they did was actually on the roof, and the walls were like 25 feet high, and then there was no like clear path to the sun. There was like this mesh covering, and I didn't like it. I only went up there like once. You didn't have to go to rec. It was like an optional. They would say they were doing it.
I guess you could equate rec to like PE or recess in school.
Maybe, except for there was bars between you and God's green earth. Or
so
a mesh
you could
cover,
see the
or
sky
25. Yes.
on the sun.
I actually, my complexion is dark. I have darker skin, but if I don't get sun, I turn like this sickly, pasty white. And by the time I got to prison in 1994, I had like black circles under my eyes. I got a really bad sunburn with sun poison. We'll talk about that later, but you don't get a lot of contact with the outside or with air or fresh air, and you never, ever, ever hardly get to do anything after the sun goes down.
So, for example, when you went out to rec, how long were you out there? How many minutes or an hour?
It averaged about an hour.
And what did you do? You just sit outside, or did you have to work, or do you
work?
I mean, I don't know. I've seen prisoners picking up trash and
No, that's prison. This is
okay.
Jail. You're just stuck. You're just in there.
Okay.
You're sitting there. There's nothing. You don't have anything to do unless you're like a trustee. And I never got to be a trustee because of my charges. So I could never be. You had to be minimum security to be a trustee. And then usually when you see like prisoners working on the side of the road, they've been sentenced to that. So that's a different program. I never was able to take advantage of any of those programs, even though I would have rather been out on the side of the road picking up trash. I would have rathered it. It was it was a year and a day. I left Bay County going to prison in January 24th of 1994. And it was, by that time, that year was the hardest year of my life. And it was, I was ready to go. I was ready to, get me out of here, do something.
It's a crazy thing to think that you were in a place that you were ready to go to prison because that somehow was going to be better than...
Well, that's how it breaks you down. I know guys that were charged with crimes that they were, like, partially guilty of, maybe... I'm not going to say not guilty, but that's how they break you down. They keep you locked up like that. You get to the end of a year like that, you're willing to do whatever just to get out. Just get me out of here.
Is that because there's more freedom in the next place in prison, or?
Yes.
Well, you said it was like militant as far as you had to be, shaved a certain way and dressed a certain way. And
well, there was none of that in jail.
Okay.
You didn't have to do, all you had to do in jail was be there.
Okay.
And do what they told you to do and pass your time. And really the way I passed my time was writing letters, reading books, reading magazines, doing crossword puzzles, and give me all the books.
And how did you get books? You were allowed to read books, obviously? People would give you books?
Yeah, and you could, like my mom couldn't bring me a book.
Okay.
But she could order a book from a publisher, put all my information and my little jail number, and they could mail it to me. So I got a lot of my family did stuff like that.
Okay.
But then that's a lot to go through to ask somebody, figure out who published this book.
Yeah.
It wasn't like you had Amazon in those days. But that was the only way you could get books.
Were there any books like circulating through the jail that,
maybe
you finished and then you gave to your,
yes,
as I call them, roommate, but your...
Yes, but they were old. Usually the trustees kept all the good books, and the books you got would be like something nobody else wanted to read. Like, I remember I read like 1,000 page book about, it was like hobbits and people turned into rabbits, and just something I would never read, but I was so desperate I would read anything to get out of the situation that I was in. Just, it was an escape for me. And then music, you had headphones. That was a big escape for me because I could put my headphones in and close my eyes and just, like, not be there for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
That was when I started listening to 90s country, got real deep into that.
90s country is good, though. I listen to 90s country. That's, I feel like, some of the best playlists still.
Well, before that time, I was still anti-redneck because we moved to Alabama when I was 10. It was like, y'all can put me here, but I'm not going to be a redneck. I'm not wearing Wrangler jeans and cowboy boots, and I'm not going to be a redneck. But somehow country music, like, soothed my soul during that time. I know that sounds crazy, but it did. It was like,
I feel like that is the magic of country music, which is why it's so popular.
Maybe. And then I think one of the most traumatic times was when I got transferred.
Yeah, I want to hear about that.
Transfers are awful. Like, you never even...
So when you say transfer, what does that even mean?
So I was in Jefferson County for 6 months, and they ended up... they came back. There was a lot of negotiations with the lawyers and the district attorney. They finally came back because the officer that we shot at told them that I did not know what was going to happen. And he went to bat for me. Like, he wasn't in that. But I was still guilty because I was in the process of doing crime with my co-defendants.
Right.
So they didn't have to do this, but they came to me with an offer, and they said, if he goes to trial, you will have to testify at his trial. And we'll drop the charges against you, but you're going to have to plead guilty to battery on a law enforcement officer because you did push him. But
with this, they are going to remove the attempted murder
from
of a law enforcement officer.
From me.
Right.
So I didn't understand this at the time. That is something that you're not supposed to do because it makes you a snitch. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm sure you don't understand that. We were in a cell together, sleeping across from each other, and I told them, they said they would drop the charges against me, and I'd plead guilty to this battery on a law enforcement officer, but if you go to trial, they say that I'll have to testify, and that's what I'm going to do. I mean... So
you told him that?
Yeah, it was very... And he was like, oh...
Your cousin.
Yeah, he was like, oh, well, I'm never going to trial. Take the deal, do whatever. But then what ended up happening was he did go to trial, and I had to go testify against him, and that split my family. Like, his side of my mom's family and my side of my mom's family, that kind of split our family in two after that. But I didn't have a choice. And to this day, after I went to prison, you start learning, they call it like turn in state's evidence or something. I didn't do any of that. Mm-hmm. I was trying to cooperate and do whatever they needed me to do to not go to prison for 25 years. And then the bottom line was I didn't shoot at the police. Like, I did not know that was going to happen. I did not know. I would never have been a part of that. It was not my thing.
Well, the bottom line, it was the truth.
Yeah,
basically.
But they got done with me there, and they said they wouldn't sentence me till after he got sentenced in case I had to testify. So they sent me to Bay County, and he stayed in Jefferson County until he resolved that. We left on good terms, but the transfer, Lord have mercy. We went from Monticello, Florida to Panama City. I'm not sure how long it was, but they sent a deputy from Bay County. They put shackles on my arms, put shackles on my legs, and then wrapped me up with a chain around my waist, I guess, to keep me from running. I don't know. And then put me in a car, and it seems like they went all over the world. I was in that car for 4 or 5 hours. And then I just remember I had to pee so bad. I just had to use the bathroom. And then if you said it to the guy that was the two that were in the front, they just ignore you. Like, figure it out. Ha ha ha. They stopped in this little town called Blountstown, Florida. Have you ever heard of that?
I've heard of it, yeah.
It was the little, the sheriff's office there was in a trailer. So it was... like a double-wide trailer. It was different. Never saw anything like that before. But they took me in there and let me use the bathroom, but they wouldn't unshackle me. And then I was in the bathroom, and then the deputy came in there with me, and I was like, you gonna stand here the whole time while I try to use the bathroom? And he was like, yep. And I couldn't pee. Like, it wouldn't come out. But my bladder was about to bust. And so I was finally just like, whatever I got to do to pee, and just was like screaming, and it finally came out. And then it was a relief to be done with that. And then that was when I got taken to Bay County. I had to come back to Jefferson County when he went to trial. That was when I had to testify. Then I had to face the judge there.
So were you in shackles every trip back and forth?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, always. You belong to the state. That's what happens when you're a criminal. I mean,
yeah,
you belong to them, like in Shawshank Redemption, where he said, men, give your hearts to Jesus, but your ass belongs to me. And that is a real thing. I mean, it is what it is. And I had to do that one more time before I came. When I came back to Bay County the second time, my co-defendant came with me. So
your cousin.
Yeah, we were able to talk on the transfer. For some reason, then it was on a van that wasn't quite as traumatic. At that first one, it was just me in a car with some redneck deputies that didn't care nothing about me.
You. Yeah.
Yeah.
So 6 months, more or less, in the Bay County jail first, or in the Jefferson County jail first.
Yeah.
And then 6 months, more or less, in the Bay County,
Panama City.
If you had to just say which one, I mean, it sounds crazy to even ask this question, but which one was the better experience, the Bay County or the Jefferson County?
Oh, definitely Bay County. Bay County was a little bit different, number one, because they fed you. I don't think we ever had egg salad when I was there. And then if you had money on your books, like you could order once a week, they did a thing called commissary, where you could fill out this little card and you could pay for stuff that you could keep in your cell, like little soups or
food.
Moon pies.
Okay.
Real toothpaste, real deodorant.
True luxuries.
Yeah.
So when you had money on the books, how did you get, I mean, is that your family gave you money, but you can't actually hold the money, so it's like a bank account kind of?
Well, when you're either in jail or in prison, you have an account. So people would send me money orders, and it would just go on my books. And you could check it. They would send you a thing like you got $47 in your account. So, once a week they would do the commissary thing. You can get you some little chips and some popcorn.
Was that a store you would go to, or just fill out a form, or
No.
what?
No, I never went to a store. That would have been great. No, they just sent out this little thing on these pieces of paper, like this printout, and it would say what the thing was and how much it was. And you would just check it off and say, yes, I want this, and I want this many of them. And then, there was a limit. You could only get 2 bags of coffee. Because really, in jail and in prison, tobacco and coffee are the most valuable commodities. You can use those as currency. And they didn't want you to have too many of those.
Okay.
So, but the coffee was not like coffee that we have now. We didn't have a Keurig.
You didn't have a Keurig in your jail cell?
Well, we also didn't have a coffee maker. It was instant coffee. You just
add water.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And actually, my one fight that I got in when I was in the county jail, I was in Bay County. It was a couple months before I went to prison, and I was talking on the phone to my girlfriend. And this guy was from Miami, and he had gold teeth, and he was kind of scary looking. He was loud talking, he made me very nervous. But I had learned I had a lot of old timers that would try to spend time with me and explain to me all right, this is what's going to happen when you go to prison, and this is what you got to do, and this is what you can't do. And one of them that they had already drilled into me is if somebody messes with you, you got to come back at them, and that served me well over the years.
Come back okay. Define someone messing with you, and what does coming back at them look like?
messing with you in any kind of way, they call that trying you. Like, because that was the game.
Like, do they come up and push you, or?
There's different ways of trying people. The way they would try people is like, trying you means like trying to see what you're made of. So they would test you with small things. If you gave in to the small things, then they would test you with bigger things. So, but the game was, you don't let anybody disrespect you in any kind of way, even if they're bigger than you, even if you're scared. We'll talk about my prison experience later, but
I'm actually super excited and fascinated. I don't know why I find it so exciting to talk about the fighting. Like,
well, I think since we're doing this on jail, I need to talk about the one fight I did get in.
Yes, please.
So this was this guy. He tried me by telling me to get off the phone. He told me it was time for me to get off the phone. And I said, excuse me, I'll get off the phone when I'm done talking on the phone. And he said, this is my phone. When I say get off the phone is when you get off the phone. You understand what I'm saying? So I said, all right, well, let me explain to you how this is going to work. I was actually fixing to get off the phone, but since you're going to talk to me like that, I'm going to be on here for at least another 30 minutes. And this happened in front of everybody. So he was disrespecting me, but then I disrespected him because I gave him the pushback. So I was worried about what was going to happen, but I was like, I got to do what I got to do, because if this is going to be my life, I got to learn how to survive. And honestly, I didn't know how to fight. And at that time, I only weighed like 170 pounds. I was a little bitty fella, 5'7", 150, 170, not many pounds. Like there was nothing menacing about me. There was nothing. I had always used my mind to have leverage. Never would I try to use my physical presence or person, because I didn't have anything to give.
So what happened?
He started circling me, and I was watching.
What does that mean, circling you?
Like walking around.
Like a shark?
Pacing. Yeah, pretty much, yes, like a shark. And then he went and got in that county jail, they had a little, it wasn't a coffee pot, but it was was shaped like a coffee pot, but it warmed the water. So if we had coffee or oatmeal or something, we could use it. And he went and unplugged it, and I saw him unplug it. And that was one of the games that they played in there, was they would try to hurt somebody really bad on the front so they couldn't defend themselves. And I was acting like I wasn't watching him, but I was watching his every move. And he came up to me and he threw the hot water on me. No, but he missed. Okay. He missed because I saw what he was doing. Uh-huh. And as soon as he threw it, I turned. I spun around and he missed, and the water went everywhere. The water never hit me. So I didn't know what to do. And this guy was 6 foot. I don't want to exaggerate. He was
6 foot something.
He was more than 6 feet tall, and he was huge. He was a big guy. And I didn't know what to do, so I knew from fighting with my cousins as a kid, I would get in a fight with my cousin that was actually my co-defendant, and they would want to stand up and box. And I was always like, we can fight if you want to, but I'm going to go for the nuts or whatever I need to do. I'm not going to stand and box you, because I knew I couldn't win like that. So I would always pull his hair. I would pull his hair, bring him to the ground, and hit him in the face, and then we'd be done with that. And they never beat me up, because that was my strategy. You're not gonna hurt me. I'll pick up something and hit you in the head with it. I'm not gonna do that.
You're like the scrappy, scrawny.
Yeah, but this was a guy that had a ball head. There was no hair to be pulled.
So what hair did you pull?
I didn't pull his hair. I knew not to stay backed up where we had to go at it. So I rushed him before he could rush me, and I went for his knees. And we rolled around. We were rolling around, and people were screaming. And this is embarrassing, but this is what happened. The only thing I knew to do was I reached down and I grabbed his balls and I started turning them. And I didn't stop. I turned them. And turned them and turned them and turned them. And he was screaming, just howling before they came in and broke it up. But he never even put a hand on me. So
very intense.
No, but it was a protection. I was protecting myself.
I'm surprised, though, that after that, there was an incident where he came for revenge.
No. In county jails like that, not so much in prison, but in county jails, once that happens, he gets a mark on him and I get a mark on me. So we would never be put in the same unit again.
Okay.
After that. They put you in lockup. They lock you in your cell after that. After that fight, they locked me in my cell. And then you have to go in front of these like officers and, tell your side of the story. And I was so angry, like, because I didn't do nothing. What are you going to lock me up for? That I gave them a lot of attitude. We had a rough little hearing. And then they found me not guilty, and they let me not be locked in my cell. But the guy that walked me back, the officer, he was like, if you had not had that attitude, this wouldn't have even been complicated. You need to learn how to talk to these people, especially people in authority, and especially if you're going to go to prison, you need to learn how to get along with the police. So I did learn something from that.
What did you learn?
Not to mess with the police. Yes, sir. No, sir. We'll talk about that more, I guess. And then are we going to talk about prison the next one?
Yeah, because that's the next step, right?
Well, the lead up to that was, I had a lot of guys there that I don't know if they liked me or felt sorry for me or they just wanted to make sure I wasn't going to get killed in prison. But they spent a lot of that. Last 3 months before I went to prison, I had a lot of older men that had been in and out of prison all their life that they would start wanting to talk to me early in the morning and just tell me, this is what it's like and this is what you got to do. And I was ready when I went, and I survived.
Wow. Well, we will talk more about that next time. I do want to hear next time in the beginning when we start talking about some of the advice they gave you and how it helped you.
Let me give you a little primer.
Sure.
When I was in Highlands College a couple years ago, they want us to do a 10-minute message.
I remember.
And it was on the greatest advice that you'd ever received from anybody and why. Mm-hmm. And it was me and, a friend, John Barry and Robert and Trevor. And one of them was talking about something he learned from his dad, one was from his mom. And like, James, what are you going to do? And I said, I think I'm going to do what the old-timer told me before I went to prison. They were like, I don't know about that. And I was like, it was the best advice I'd ever received. I mean, it saved my life for 7 years.
Well, what was it?
It was the 3 things you don't ever do. You don't borrow anything from anybody. You don't gamble, and you don't mess with sissies.
I'm looking forward to unpacking that next week.
No, but I mean, I watched that over the people that got hurt and jammed up and messed up. It was usually because they borrowed something from somebody, couldn't pay it back, or they were doing some kind of gambling where they got in debt to somebody, or like, I don't like the derogatory term sissy, but I mean, that is a subculture in the prison world and they call themselves sissies. That's what they call themselves. So if you get tangled up in any of that, there was some repercussion. And that's not like a dig at anybody that's homosexual. That's the prison term for that. Mm-hmm. And that's what they call themselves. But if you got tangled up in either of those 3 worlds, you were in trouble. And so that was the best advice I was ever given. I mean, but anyways, guys, stay tuned. The next episode 5, we'll be talking about that cold night. They moved us in the middle of the night because you're a flight risk when you're going to prison.
So we can finally learn really what's the difference between jail and prison.
Well, you also learn the different kind of prisons because you don't go straight to prison either. You go first to a reception center. So my first...
the front desk of the hotel. We talked about this.
They call it a reception center, but it's more or less designed to break you down and make sure they know what you're made of before they decide where to send you from there. So stay tuned.
Bye.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to the Straight Outta Prison podcast. For more, follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Look up Straight Outta Prison podcast.
Yes, we have pictures and people of things that we talk about during each episode. I have really loved being able to connect people and their faces and names and some other things that we've talked about on this platform. So, Straight Outta Prison podcast, Facebook and Instagram. And if you'd like to support our show, check out our website, teamjones.co.com/podcast. Thanks, guys.
See you soon.